Donald Trump wanted the job of president. And as the leader of the free world, as the leader of the American people, this isn't, in my opinion, about transactionally just going down a list of promises that he made on the campaign stump. He has to actually understand what Americans are going through and the actual root cause problems that we have.
So, Mark Mitchell, is John Solomon right? I mean, he's got called, is he getting blamed, or is the Republican Party getting blamed? These poll numbers are, let's say, not the best. And let's assume for a second that this is not fake news or bad polling. Let's assume, just for purpose of conversation, this is right. Is the president getting blamed for this, or is Solomon saying, hey, look, it's the House. The House is like the Duma. The Senate is actually in opposition to Trump. But who's the American public, and particularly MAGA, thinks who it is? And Solomon just said, he's telling the president, hey, look, give him 30 days, give him 45 days. But at some point in time in January, if they're not coming around to help you take action, you run a campaign against them for a couple of months. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, first off, as far as the tracking questions, I'm a pollster, and I don't know how valuable they're going to be anymore. We're looking at Trump presidential approval rating, and it's -5 net approval, which is roughly where Barack Obama 1 and 2 were at this point in his term. Not terrible, not absolutely great either, but Trump's support is sticking with him, I think, through all of this. We had a little bit of a freak out, but those numbers are back. But the other thing we're looking at is generic ballot. And to be honest, the Republicans, even though they suck, the race seems to be tightening a little bit. We have Democrat +3, and if you look at the Real Clear Politics aggregate, I think it's Democrat +3.5. And so this isn't like some massive, huge blue wave where there's going to be a huge Democrat pickup, which is typically what happens. This is going to be a slugfest. And I think it's because politics has just changed so much that we're in this really existential situation where people are afraid. This was a referendum, November 2024, on the federal government. And Donald Trump wanted the job of president. And as the leader of the free world, as the leader of the American people, this isn't, in my opinion, about transactionally just going down a list of promises that he made on the campaign stump. He has to actually understand what Americans are going through and the actual root cause problems that we have in our country. And those problems are very deep in a way that I don't think everybody really understood in 2016, but I think they understand now, because we had the Department of Justice weaponized, we had the January 6th psychological operation, we had COVID, we had all this stuff forced down people's throats. We had the FBI being Joe Biden's personal Gestapo. And Donald Trump is now leading that government, and these problems have not been fixed. We're coming up on the 1-month anniversary of my trip to Washington, D.C., and I told Trump, I said, we need the fight, fight, fight plan for America that includes a conservative, pragmatic, economic, populist plan. Don't tell everybody it's a golden age, because nobody believes that. You got to tell us how we're going to get there and what the real problems are. And the real problems are deep. It's like regulatory capture, corporatism, corporate welfare, the oligarchy. These are the problems. I said that. It's in the Washington Post. People can go read it. And the other problem is brutal government reform. And so what the Democrats would say is, oh, look, Donald Trump's a dictator. He's coming in and doing dictatory things. Well, when Donald Trump was acting most like a dictator in February, that's when his especially under 40 approval rating was at its highest. His approval rating was at its highest as well. But we have new polls back, which is closer to your opinion, that Donald Trump has done too much of what he promised during the campaign, or he has not done enough of what he promised. And people say he hasn't done enough, 38% to only 21%. Only 1 in 5 Americans say that Donald Trump has done too much of what he promised. And he promised retribution. Like, let's be clear, that was part of the promise. And you have Susie Wiles out there saying, look, no, we don't, there should be a time limit. We shouldn't have retribution. Well, how about brutal reform of the government? That's not retribution. That's what Americans demand and what they should be getting out of a president that sits on top of this rotted corpse of the federal government. But the under 30 voters, these Zoomerwaffen, these people who are just done with performative politics, they don't care about ideology at all. They just want brutal order. These people, 49% of them say he hasn't done enough of what he promised. Only 19% of them say he's done too much. And these under 30 voters, it's actually the under 40s too. They're the ones that agreed most with Donald Trump's quote about Napoleon Bonaparte, he who saves his country violates no laws. They're the ones that were most on board with Doge. They're the ones who, most of them, 3/4 of them, think that basically every elected official is using their position for ill-gotten gain. They're the most likely to want arrests. and they're most likely to be concerned about political violence as well. And so the problem is, again, I have all these metrics that show that Donald Trump just hasn't delivered. And I understand that this is hard, but we're in a situation where people, in my opinion, don't really want to play by the rules anymore. Is the government doing enough to stop political violence in America? Only 17% of U.S. likely voters say yes, 64% say no. And this is after Donald Trump sent the National Guard to clean up cities to help support ICE. And so there's a lot of tools in our toolbox, but this is the same number, like only 16% said the case is closed on Epstein. And 83% of Trump voters say that government agencies like the FBI and CIA still need major reform. So the job is not done.